Hello, everyone, and welcome. Hello, world. I am so delighted that you're all here today. It's just amazing as I watch the energy shift from local to worldwide. And Ross just got off of a international call, and we are about to begin, and how beautiful that is. Another amazing day of just allowing the universe to show us the way. And so let's do the invocation, which I just love, giving it all to Spirit. We are now in the presence of pure being. We are immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, of love, and of wisdom. And we acknowledge this presence and this power. Oh, beloved Spirit, now dissolve our human limitations, and from your pure substance of love, bring into manifestation our world according to your perfect plan. And so take a deep breath and just bring that into your awareness. And make that your commitment to live every single day of your life. Just knowing that you're giving it to the Holy Spirit, that you are willing, that you are open, that you are ready, and that you are part of the way showers. You are part of the advanced team that will guide others through. We signed up for this many, many years ago at the moment of our birth. We said yes to a plan we understood at that moment in universal consciousness, knowing that as we came into this vibration, we would become forgetful. We would lose our memory of our knowingness, and we would immerse ourselves in a process, recognizing that we, in fact, are called by love, called by the Holy Spirit, called by the essence of the all that is. And so we give ourselves to you, O beloved Spirit, in this willingness, in this openness, in this knowingness of the all that is. And we simply say, come, come, Holy Spirit. We are so grateful for your willingness, your presence, and your power. We are grateful for the ways that you connect us that are beyond our human understanding. We simply say yes to that amazing matrix that is the universal, the cosmic matrix, the plan of God, the plan of the Holy Spirit. And so it is. And so today, our spotlight guest is ROSS HOSTETTER. But we're going to play again a bit. I love playing. And we're going to, instead of sticking with a horizontal landscape, we're going to start with the now, and we're going to shift into the first act, and we're going to play with people coming and revealing themselves as we go along. And we will know that all of this is under the guidance and under the direction of the Holy Spirit. So we will cover the four acts, and yet we will do them in a timeless way, living in the now, in timelessness. And the first picture in the email was a celebration of that. But before we go to that first picture, I want to just briefly talk about the theme that I made up. I chose the theme, and it's a long one this time. Being a visionary, what does that mean? Being a dreamer, being a risk taker, being an adventurer, going beyond, going beyond the visible, going into the invisible. I love this one part. I guess it's part of because I know Ross and Mary so well and just celebrate them. A man who loves a woman. That's you, Ross. Co-creating. That's what we're all doing together. Exploring a future, knowing even a future that is yet to come. Still in the invisible, still having glimpses of it, and sometimes even pure seeing of it. We just finished some primary elections. I'm looking forward to midterms. But that's part of the human plane experience. And so today we shift into another dimension. We shift into the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension and beyond, even while we come back and we circle back and we spiral and and experience the all that is as we do all of these magnificent things that are possible as we say yes to this beautiful, incredible integration of the visible and the invisible. And as we say yes to our playing our part in that unfolding. And so we're going to have a Trinity today in the dialogue process. Holly Woods, who did such a magnificent job on my birthday call, is going to join Ross and I as, and I love this awareness of a Trinity. And in unity, they talk about the Trinity as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Now we get to talk about it in a different way. We get to have two feminine aspects and one masculine aspect. So we have even shifted in our awareness of a Trinity. How beautiful that can be. Mother, brother, and sister, Holly says. Welcome, Holly. And what a
Thank you.
delight it is for you to be back today and dialoguing in this three-way process. So, Ross, as we go to that first picture, I am remembering that when you were on my birthday call, you and Mary called in from the hospital and you were in a serious state
I
of
was.
not knowing. In fact, one of the diagnoses said you could have been a couple of days away from death.
Right.
So, how are you doing, Ross?
Much better, thank you.
And you're home,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Boulder,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're
Fully
calling in
recovered.
from your
Uh,
office.
Thanks to Mary, being an absolute angel and doing so many things that will not soon be forgotten. I will tell you that. She showed up so beautifully. and also to modern medicine and to Medicare. Thank God. I got crazy.
Thank God for the
And thank
divine
you, Sue.
feminine
I
in
want to
your
thank you,
life.
Sue. Yeah. So maybe just very quickly, I just want to acknowledge some friends on the call. Sue, thank you so much. Sue was a real help through my illness, along with another one of Mark, another one of Mary's siblings. Um, got some friends on the call here, so I feel like I'm very well supported. Tess, Addie, Jennifer, I just want to thank you for coming in here. We'll have some time to all talk together here towards the end of the call.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So beautiful. And I love seeing the people who are on the call. Welcome back again, Johnny. So glad to see your face.
Yes, Johnny.
And welcome back again, Coral Rose. And well, so many of you, too many to name this morning. How beautiful it is. And let's jump into that first picture, which is partly a celebration. It's a recent photograph of your family. So
Right.
Ross, talk about that picture as we jump into the
Oh, yeah.
definitions.
Uh, yeah, so maybe I could just kind of frame this call so we could, um, because we are in line with your invocation, Marge,
Mhm.
as risk takers and way showers and everything like that. We're kind of exploring my life, but it really is, I'd like to just put it in the context of a fractal of the whole, of a life that shares many common characteristics with all kinds of other lives. And as we jump into that family pattern, uh, I will just say that the family metaphor is one of the primary metaphors of the spiritual life. It's used throughout Christianity, especially, and to talk about the close connection of not only relationship. Of course, we're all related in some way all the time, but intimacy of a group of people that are sharing a journey together in an intimate way, and we all have our roles to play in that. And I will say that when we're talking about people that are on a spiritual path, uh, there is some sense of differentiation from the culture at large that happens, especially when you have your first spiritual opening or something like that occurs. The people that are on this call and on the spiritual path, all of us are can be kind of outcasts and oddballs at a certain point in time in our lives. And that just kind of goes with this territory. It does, and that can be a very painful experience because we all have a psychic need to belong and to matter. Okay, to our to our family of origin. Those are like fundamental psychic safety things that we need to have. And I will just say that on this call, we are a family. Okay. And that the work that we do to help each other belong to one another and to matter to one another is exceptionally important because we may not get it from our family of origin. We may not. So I'll just start there. And in that role, Mary and I are there with the kids and everything like that. We have quite a traditional family, that's born out of kind of a traditionalist model. Mary came from the Catholic Church model with a huge family. I came from a more Protestant model, but still very, very similar in terms of the family structure. There wasn't divorce or anything like that that came from that. Very coherent and cohesive and somewhat rigidified, family structures. And that is, we all have our roles to play in those structures. And so that's just something I want to bring out when we're talking about our family. The particular role that I'm playing in that role is the role of the father of the family, the provider of the family, and kind of a traditional safety thing. And there are, each of us do have a role, okay? And there's only so many roles available in a family. You got the black sheep, the successful person, the person that doesn't quite fit in, in conformist, all that kind of stuff. And so you gotta kind of pick our role. And I think most of us here are in um, self-authoring roles and leadership roles. We're in a role where we kind of sit outside traditional structures and are yet embedded in them at the same time. And uh, it's interesting. I will just say one thing that might get us to the end of the call, and I want your thoughts about this, Holly, especially on this type of a path that we're on, which involves individuation from the family structure. You're supported by the family structure, yet you're in a process of individuation and growing and becoming and evolving and everything like that. The promise of the story of the outcast, which was in the story that I talk about in my book, and that is the story of all great spiritual figures. When you take a look at Jesus, he has that long lament. He just says, "Even the foxes have a have a den, but I don't have a place to lay my head. I don't belong, really anywhere." And so there's a process of distillation, I think, of the psychic material and the growth of the personhood, the collection of the parts of the personhood and the growth of all of that thing to get to a spot where we belong to the whole world. And that's something that I want to chat about because the end of that story is a fabulous place to be. Even though there's going to be parts of that story along that it can be quite painful. So I don't know, Holly, you want to pick up on that riff?
The only thing I would like to interject is a question for you, and it doesn't have to come, your responses doesn't have to come now, but um, noticing that you spent quite a bit of your early life as an explorer,
Right,
and as did I, as do many people who become visionaries. And I'd love to hear more about how that gave you the capacity and the preparatory skill sets and maybe perspective to live this life outside of the normative boxes, um, and to belong to something so much bigger.
right.
It feels like it's such an important part of your story. So it
Yeah.
lasted so long and had such an impact on who you became. Um,
Well, great. Well, I can talk about that in concrete terms. In terms of my life growing up, um, I had a pretty nice childhood. I did not have a traumatic childhood.
Mhm.
I was, born into a family of, a stable home, uh, where there was plenty of provision. My parents were community leaders. They were well-respected people. I was born on second base as a smart, good-looking white boy.
Mhm.
So,
Third,
you know,
call it third base.
what's that?
Third base.
You
I
know,
love that. I love that symbol. I was
uh,
born on second base.
so I had a lot of advantages, and there were also a lot of responsibilities. The ad adventure part of that story really started in my late teens, and it started out in the wilderness. You know,
Mhm.
um, Marge. I'm going to do some parallels of your life. I was working. I was an Eagle Scout. I was a nice boy. Trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly. I really believed in that, all that kind of stuff, and very traditional in spiral dynamics terms, blue or traditionalist model. And one of the things that I've cherished is that healthy blue is really a nice thing to have. It's nice to be trustworthy, loyal, helpful. clean, reverent, all of that Boy Scout stuff. And so I was drawn to be to I had the qualifications to be a wilderness guide at a Boy Scout base, which was a high adventure base. Okay, that's what they were calling it, a high adventure base. So it was kind of a call to adventure. And I can talk a little bit about my initiation process. And I was initiated actually, I didn't quite fit into the program because I was too small, too weak. There was kind of, they were looking for big, hunky, you know, Danish guys
Early.
and everything like that to be able to do that. And I had a beautiful mentor there by the name of Billy Finucane, who was also didn't quite fit into the program. I will tell you one thing about him because we get these guides and stuff along the way. Um, and the story is this: we were out on this guide training, and this was back in the days where they didn't give participation trophies. Okay, they were uh, they were cutting you out. It was like the fruit, few, the proud, the Marines, and so some people had to drop out of the program so that the other macho guys uh, could build an esprit de corps because they survived it and you didn't.
Hmm.
So it was designed to have people exiting, that didn't make it. And I was clearly in the middle of this program, one of the guys that was not making it. Not because I didn't have the desire or something, I just didn't have the physical capacity to do it. And I was 98 pounds at the time, and this program required you to carry 80 pounds. So that's a hard thing on your physical body through swamps and all of this sort of stuff. And we were portaging through this cedar swamp, which was this ridiculous, portage thing, just to put you through a swamp with mosquitoes and a very difficult situation and everything like that to cut people out. And I was clearly being cut out. Like the whole alpha male thing was fading off into the distance. And I had a step and I just got mired in this swamp and got completely stuck. I mean, I couldn't move. You're kind of in this quicksand type material. And this guy comes back, and he was an interesting guy because he wasn't fitting in the program. He had a kind of a scraggly beard, and he smoked, and but he turned out he was the one that really knew the woodcraft. Was really the person that was the woodsman in this whole thing. He comes back and sits down next to me, lights up a cigarette, offers me a cigarette. I've never had a cigarette in my life, and offers me a cigarette, and he says, uh, you're not going to make it, right?" so so let's just deal with the facts. And
You said, "Oh, thank God."
oh, thank God I'm not going to make it. And all that, you're going to get evacuated out of here. Something's going to happen. And he said, but this is really a good thing because you're not going to make it in that program, in that house of stories. You're not going to make it in that house of stories. So I'm going to give you a a different game to play. Okay. And the game I want you to play is to see the beauty.
Mm.
Can you see it? Can you see where you are? And it's one of those teachable moments that kind of still brings tears to my eyes. That in that moment, I could see it. Then that was my first big spiritual breakthrough, where you could see the beauty of the mosquito on the back of your hand. You could see, the light coming through the trees. You could see the beauty. And he said, you follow that. This is going to be your job to see the beauty in the pain, see the beauty in anything you do. And that was the best spiritual instruction I ever got. It's certainly at that point in time. And there was a power that came from that. That I didn't have to conform to all this other stuff. All I had to do was see the beauty. And that allowed me to get through the program.
Mm.
And I got stronger. You could see, seeing the beauty in the pain, you kind of jumped up above uh, to a higher level. And so I'll just say that to the people on the call here. I think that that's still a really great spiritual instruction
Mhm.
to do that. So that was the kind of the beginning of the whole adventure thing. Uh, that puts you on a different trajectory than the normal program. That's kind of has a bop, but a bop, 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 bop. And Marge, I know that you were at Unity of Tustin. You've told me many times that kind of the church had its program and its budget and its idea of what it was going to be, but you had your own program, okay, that was running inside the traditional program. And for me, the adventure started in that context. I started in a traditionalist place where I was running a sidebar program using the traditionalist structure, using the canoe base and all the things that they had, and which I've come later to really appreciate the value of, the context of something like that. They were giving me an opportunity to do that, but I had my own program that was different than theirs. And that was a to take these kids out on a journey of risk and trust and transformation. And that was not in any of those program materials, that we were going to do. And it was a risky program to do all that. And so we did all the Boy Scout stuff, and we did all that. But as we were leaving the base, I was getting these kids, ready for this kind of high adventure sort of thing, which they did not really realize what it was going to be. And in my program, it involved a deconstruction of the kids and a deconstruction too. And so the whole idea was to get them out far enough, like 3 or 4 days on that initial kind of pulse egg sac of energy, to do all that until the shit hit the fan. And they realized that they were out in the middle of the rain and the middle of the swamps, and they were getting bit by mosquitoes. And I had a little ritual for these 16-year-old kids when we would get to that point where they were just snarling and no, this is not what I signed up for. I'm blah 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 blah. So, in the pouring rain, oftentimes it would be like that. We all get around the circle. We're all cold. They're all tired. This is not what they expected. They were expecting me to perform services for them and everything like that. And so I would carry a little flask of whiskey, the spirits for this moment, a little Jack Daniels and a pack of cigarettes. I'd pass out the whiskey to these kids. Everybody take a swig on the bottle. I'd, let them light up a cigarette. I'd tell them a dirty joke. And, kind of these standard manhood initiation things like uncles do for you and everything when and, uh, and ask one of the kids to just lay out all the gripes, you know, just have a huge, release, this big bitch session, and then amplify it. Just like we're being bit by mosquitoes. Well, if you remember the black flies and the no-see-ums and all that. Oh, we're wet and cold. Yeah, again, not even at night, and the tent stripping and all that kind of stuff. And you get out to it to a point where it was almost comedic, and
Mhm.
they were able to see it and start to laugh. But the main thing was we get to that point, and I would have to tell them, none of that's going to change. I'm not going to change any of that. And I'm not going to rescue you from any of that. Okay. This is how this is going to be. So what are you going to do about it? And and that then was a turning point where they didn't expect, mom or dad to bail them out. Didn't expect me to bail them out. that on the basis of their own resources, they were going to have to go forward. And it required then an internal shift in them. And you could see it just click over. Didn't always click over in everyone, but it clicked over in so many kids where they realized,
So
oh,
I want to do just a really quick review of a lot of the things, stages that you've been talking about.
right,
The first one is when you were a baby.
right,
And one of the things I noticed in that particular photograph is uh, how similar it actually was in some ways to the one with your family now.
yeah,
Mm.
exactly,
Smiles on the faces, the looks in the eyes. It was astounding to see that similarity,
yeah,
almost as if the imprint had come from those early childhood years,
right,
that you somehow had received imprints of destiny, even in that moment when you were
sure,
that tiny baby.
yeah,
And it's very, very fascinating to look at that and see it so clearly. And
yeah,
then to
exactly.
see the imprints of how you brought that about in your own life. And one of the imprints that I love is the one of you as a baseball player.
Yeah,
Oh my God. And isn't it fascinating that when you're in your 60s, you write a novel, a fantasy novel, a magical novel about someone that starts in a baseball field.
yeah,
Mm.
exactly. Hey,
And
Marj, I want to get into that, but this is a long, I was telling a long-winded backstory to answer Holly's question about the journey of risk. So the main point of all that question is that we all go through this at some particular point in time, and there's this point where we began to embrace the journey.
Mhm.
Okay, that's fundamental, and that we see it, and we don't try to get out of it anymore. And that I think is that's the answer to the question that I want to get to with all kinds of helps and guides along the way. And then I want to get back to the family patterns if we could.
You know, and I want to insert one more question in here, though, if I can. There's a, I hear in your story, there was a point at which you became a misfit,
Uh-huh.
you know, when you fell down in the swamp.
Right.
You realized, oh, I don't fit into this box of expectation that I thought I wanted to participate in, and there's no way I'm going to go forward. And
Right.
you had a helper who gave you a different question, a different aspiration, a different vision for yourself. But what feels clear to me, and I think I've seen this quite a, you know, in a lot of people, and Marge, this is your question too. Like, at what point do we realize we're a misfit? And that's like the best blessing ever, right? That
Right.
oh, I don't have to live this traditional life of, you know, of humans on planet Earth. I can be something else. And I'm curious, at what point, in addition to maybe your falling down in the swamp, did you discover that you don't fit into convention? And I'm guessing it might even be earlier. I don't know.
Yeah.
As you're-
And so a
I
lot of
wanted to
those.
bring in one more imprint that you
Okay.
could weave into all of this in that
Right.
question too. And that is the imprint of you and your father.
Hmm.
And you call it our happy time. This is our happy place.
Right.
And what I see in that picture, just a simple picture, is all of it was encapsulated there. The visionary, the dreamer, the risk taker, the adventurer, and you uh, you had to make the decision to go beyond.
Hmm. That's right. Yeah. I think in answer to your question, Holly, um, there's always kind of the DNA for that
Mhm.
maybe is latent, that it's waiting for an
Mhm.
opportunity to come. For me, it was the first big spiritual experience that I had, this big grand
Mhm.
mal mystical experience that just said, okay, there's a different way to see the world. Okay. And so that was helpful in expanding my what you might call my perceptual box.
Mhm.
Okay, the story of the family, the story of who I wasn't to be in society, and the story about being a lawyer and father, and all those standard sorts of roles. So it's in my case, and I think in the family that Mary and I have created, both are happening at the same time.
Mhm.
Yes.
I am in very kind of standard social roles and everything like
Mhm.
that, but there's always another story in parallel.
Mhm.
And that's why I want to talk about this guide moment with this base in this other story that it was being told another path that was could be created out of a context of the standard social milieu. Um, and the rewards of it are incredible, as you
Mhm.
say, Holly, when you get out. Just to
Mhm.
complete that story before we get into other topics, the first crew that I took out in the wilderness, we went through that whole experience, and then they opened up into their power and could begin
Mhm.
to see the beauty and everything like that. That crew, my first crew, had such a meaningful experience that they went back and evangelized and brought 12 crews into the base the following season, which was a
Wow.
huge economic benefit to the base. And suddenly I was, the guy that was at the very bottom that wasn't going to make it in the program, and I became the star. It was like, who is this guy? What is he doing? And I know Marge is similar at Unity of Tustin, like when you're kind of breaking the mold of the Unity Church and everything like that. Suddenly something happens. So um, there's there's some great benefits, that can happen
It's
when.
almost, it's almost like grace
Uh-huh.
to not fit.
Uh-huh.
It is a form of grace.
And
Yeah,
Ross, how
exactly.
old were you when you went to law school or when you
21.
considered going?
Yeah, I went right out of school, 21.
In your 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And you found yourself as a misfit in law school, even.
Correct.
And let's shift into your second act now.
Okay.
And this is when you meet Mary. You're already a lawyer,
Right.
and you meet Mary,
Mhm.
and you fall in love.
Right.
And you begin another life in a sense, and
Right.
it's leading you in another direction. You begin your family,
Right.
and there's three of them in this picture, and a puppy, and yet there's one in the future that we can't see yet. She hasn't even been thought of yet.
Right.
So there's shifts that are occurring even as you are evolving and embracing your law degree, and you have a degree as a lawyer,
Right.
and your professional photo. Love this photo. It's my favorite. and and you used it professionally, and yet two dimensions of your life were occurring simultaneously.
That's right.
And in law, you even go into a different direction.
Right.
You
That's right.
become part of a firm that was a firm of way showers.
Right.
The Texas Super Mediators. You your firm achieved an award for that in Texas.
Yep, we did.
Super mediators. All of a sudden, the misfit in law school was becoming the super mediator. Talk a
Yeah.
little more about that
Okay.
unfolding.
Well, there um it ties into this whole topic of belonging and mattering.
Mhm.
Okay. Which binds you to old structures because
Mhm.
you want to if you if you don't matter to your parents, a child is in great risk.
Mhm.
you have to matter to your parents, and you've got a social structure where you say this is how you belong and this is how you're going to matter. Okay. And when the role of the mystic or the outcast or the adventurer just inherently is uncomfortable with that. Okay, with those societal boxes, and I certainly was uncomfortable with it in law school because I'd already had this big mystical experience. I'd
Mhm.
already had, the power of, of this thing that I loved and was really good at, the Wilderness Guardian. And came into law school and just had all these highly anxious, New Yorkers sitting there climbing over each other's backs, to get some sort of GPA or something like that.
Mhm.
And it was just like, this is a ridiculous game to play. I'm not interested in playing this competition game. I don't want to do that. This is a ridiculous game to play. And there's a time I think in everyone's life when we're doing that, when the outcast, where you just feel that you're outcast, you're not going to fit in. It's just not going to work out.
Mhm.
It's just not going to work out until you discover the game that you are going to play. So in
There's
the
the
first story that I told, the game is Seeing the Beauty. The game in law, I didn't discover the game that I was going to play in law until 7 years after I went to law school. Okay. And it happened when I had quit this big international law firm that looked really good on paper, that my parents really liked, and everything like that. When my dad died, it was an opening, and I quit that job because I was doing it for him, really, to
Mhm.
be the person that my parents kind of wanted me to be. And my first client came in with tears in her eyes, and I don't know if Lucy's on this call. We're still really great friends today, and I won't go into the problem that she had, but there was just this woman sitting in my office with this situation that I had never confronted before, and she just said, "Can you help me? Can, can you help me?" And I looked up at my diploma and it said, "Well, that says that I can." Just like a doctor carrying their little bag. You have permission to help them. Okay. And I didn't realize until that moment that law could be a service profession. It could be an act of service to people. It never even occurred to me. 7 years into it, never once was that
Wow.
idea even mentioned. That it was a profession that that could serve and could help in growth. And that was the outcast saying,
Mhm.
"Oh, I'm just waiting for the universe to tell me the game that I am going to play."
Mhm.
And that game has then continuously been to be soul friends with my clients, to understand their situation, to see them, know them, love them, get into the dirt along with them, shoulder the wheel, head in the boundless sky right along with them. And that has really worked well for me. And in my role as a mediator, really understanding their situation and coming in to play the role that I had in their lives, which was to become a peacemaker and to get their problem solved. So isn't it odd that
Mhm.
7 years of law school, you would never say this is a path of helping a human being? It was all about appellate law and everything like that. But that was the game, So I'll just say these are two instances where the outcast feels horrible. You're
Mhm.
outcast. You're lonely and everything like that until the universe reveals a higher game that you can play.
Mm. I'm guessing you could tell that story in every part of your life.
I think that that's true, and I think that
Mhm.
Marj and when I'm doing a lot of talking here, and I want to bring everybody else in, but I think in the picture of Mary and I, we both met as misfits in Dallas. I mean, she was in an investment banking world that was the kind of the way of her family proceeding. Uh, that was really not who she was and what she wanted to do. I was a misfit in a litigation role. It didn't feel right to me. I was
Mhm.
becoming an asshole every like trial lawyers are and everything like that. It just felt terrible
Mhm.
for me, and that we were able to come together and begin to create this spiritual path together, which we have been on now for what, 30, almost 40 years. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Mm.
So together, you and Mary make a significant decision to move from Texas to Boulder, Colorado.
right.
Mm.
And you become an adventurer there with
Yeah,
some
that's true.
of the most significant players in the consciousness field.
Right.
And the next picture in the email is representative of that time in your life.
Yeah,
Talk
so that's
about
me and
that
Ken
and
Wilber and
people
Roger
in
Walsh
it.
and Rob Smith all hugging on each other. Uh, that's before we really tried to do something together.
Mm.
So Roger Walsh and Ken
Right.
Wilber are in that picture. Who's the other person in the picture?
That's Rob Smith. He's the founder of Integral Life. He's an integral philosopher now.
And now, and I am the Integral Academy of Meta Sciences. I forget what the acronym stands
Yeah,
for. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's another kind of a story where, the misfit drives the agenda and is seeking something better, always more refined.
Mhm.
And at that time, I'd done 4,000 mediations and gotten kind of the acclaim of society. I'd gotten, was said,
Mhm.
was featured in D magazine as the best lawyer in Dallas and all that kind of stuff. Can you imagine that from this starting point? And it kind of was done with that whole thing. But our daughter Kara was really the driver, one of the main drivers of that, because she was not fitting into the traditional school system, and not in McKinney, Texas, for sure, in that conservative school system, teaching the test and everything. She needed a
Mhm.
broader, more expansive environment. She needed higher consciousness people to teach her.
Mhm.
She was just not the teachers were not right for her, and so we had to exit in part to give her a context where she could be taught by people with a broader perspective,
Mhm.
which is one of the things that drove us to Boulder.
Mhm.
And along with my interest in integral, and we just needed to get out of that kind of context. We'd taken everything that we could get from it, and needed to take a risk to come to Boulder, which involved for me giving up a career that I had worked for 25 years to establish, where I was kind of, I was one of the top people. I was a name, and the money and the security and everything like that that came from it was substantial. And we haven't quite gotten back to that, that kind of level, but we get to, so many other things. We've been here in Boulder for 18 years, so that's a big deal to have a spirit, a drive to give up, you know, the way that you're winning the game.
If I could just interject here, I mean, what I'm witnessing in you, Ross, your story is a pattern of, setting out on some adventure and and then recognizing the adventure is not quite what you imagined, and you step outside the box and you become the misfit, and that leads to some other form of success. And then there is another adventure and another attempt to climb, a hill, a mountain, and then you become a misfit there and it leads to more success. And each time there's an invitation, like there's a calling, and we never know, those invitations can be really confusing and clumsy, but if you listen closely enough, you end up again the misfit turning into the magnificence, like of an expression of your essence in a different way.
Well, and that's the beautiful version of the story, and I do think it's true. I think that's the promise of faith,
Hmm.
okay? The faith walk. And I know that in your case, knowing a little bit about your story, Holly, it isn't like it's just some smooth little pathway. I mean, you get hammered to the wall when
Hmm.
you make
No,
those
yeah,
shifts, and you
the nail
you
holes to prove it.
and that back to the original story about those boys, okay? That deconstruction process,
Yeah.
where you think that you're all set up, like you're got a big career set up, you got a great, initial family set up and stuff like that. You give that all up, you
Hmm.
deconstruct it, and then that hammering
Hmm.
that happens, that failing and losing and all of
Hmm.
that builds
Hmm.
the strength for the next thing that has to happen. So it's not for the faint of heart, I'll tell you that.
And it's not a one-time deal. I mean, I'm hearing
Uh,
the repetition also in your life. Like it's like, every time you get one of those, like, phew, made it. And then another one comes, there's another cyclone right ahead. There's a cyclone
right,
over
exactly.
here.
And you're always looking back and saying, "Oh my God, I could just go back. I could just go back."
Yeah.
The Bible has
And
great stories. Don't look back.
don't look
You're going to
back.
get turned into stone.
You can't get back there from here. Like,
Yeah, you can't get back there from here. You're never going to get, fully back to the situation. But yeah, I have a feeling that this pattern can happen through multiple lifetimes. I don't know. What do you guys think? And this would be a good time maybe to open up to
What
the whole thing and hear your views on it, Marge, because I
yeah,
think it's a recurring thing that happens
yeah.
each time.
what I have taught for many years is that we come to a point in our life, and it's a choice point. And there's a bridge that points us into a future that we can't even see. And then there's other choices about other things that have been part of our past. And and we have a choice point. And we have to go into our heart instead of our intellect. We have to drop from our head into our heart. And we have to examine our soul in a way that we begin to say, this bridge is one that I'm going to go across. And you step onto the bridge, not knowing how, not knowing where, not knowing when, and yet you step onto that bridge anyway.
Mhm.
And in stepping onto that bridge, it unfolds into a dimension that is beyond anything that your human mind in the world of duality could have ever experienced or realized.
Right,
It goes beyond the human mind,
right.
it goes beyond the intellect. You have said yes to your soul.
Mhm.
And that, in fact, interestingly, in your life, Ross, is reflected in your book. In your book, which won awards, typical of you and your path, winning awards. And I love what is on the back cover of that book. The front cover talks about an
That was
invitation into the unitive life. There it is, and mine is on the bookshelf over my shoulder, right next to my book. I keep it there. Ross is my family now. My son died when he was 45, and Ross and Mary are my family. And Keepers of the Field uh, was the winner of an award for visionary fiction. And that was an interesting shift because you started out to write it as an autobiography.
Right.
And there were people like Dan Millman who showed up in your life.
Correct.
and had deep dive conversations with you about shifting it into a magical novel.
Right.
And
Well,
that was what you did.
yeah, well, that's an interesting thing at that kind of level of consciousness where the imaginal needs to come into the world into play. It becomes it becomes not just like a some like little lifestyle accessory or something that you have. It becomes fundamental to the progress. Okay, and that was that was it. And it's just another example. Like you think you're going to start writing a simple little book about yourself with a few little things of wisdom, and then the imaginal comes in and say, "We got a whole nother idea."
And sometimes we go kicking and screaming like, no, I'm not going
Yeah,
there.
and so like, welcome to 6,000 hours of of like working on these sentences and stuff like that to be worthy of the imagination. And having to give up your idea about what it's going to be. And certainly through this book process, all these big dreams started to come in. These feminine forces started to come into my psyche. There was so much support from the interior planes, but I had to get out of the way of it
Mhm.
and take it on its terms. It wasn't going to happen on my terms. It's going to be, and so finally we started to get into these things where I was just stuck. I'd be sitting there trying to write the book. I'd be looking, and just sat for 3 hours, and I've got 2 lines. Okay, like nothing is happening and stuff like that. And those imaginal forces and said, didn't we tell you that we wanted you to write about a 5 petal flower this morning? So write about that. And we will let you know where this fits into the story. So there's a surrender, a progressive surrender to these forces. And they have their own game. They're playing by their own rules, and they don't necessarily provide you with economic success.
Mhm.
Okay, they don't necessarily promise that. That's not the promise that you have. And I just want to note for just a second, since all three of us are book writers and doing all that, how difficult it is sometimes to follow that path
Mhm.
because it's at least a three-layer cake. One, you got to do the interior work
Mhm.
to have the experience that's worth sharing with somebody. That's multiple lifetimes of doing that. And
Mhm.
you got to do all the work of presenting it in a book form. And if those two things haven't completely worn you out, now we've got to figure out how to be our own book distributor and make it work on an enterprise level so we can pay the bills. Okay. And those are challenges for the creative class of people. And I think we're going all through all that. I know
Mhm.
a lot of people on this call, Jennifer and Johnny and other people that I know and Eddie and all that. We're all trying to figure out how to kind of get this stack put together
Mhm.
so that we can relax and it can function as a cohesive whole. And I do think it's coming, but we are way showers and groundbreakers in that way. Um,
So on the back cover of the book is actually where I began to see the whole theme for this call today, because it talks about the magic and it talks about the call. There's a call from the divine. It's a spark of the divine that is calling you, and it comes from within. And what is it calling you on? It's calling you on a spiritual adventure into a wilderness that you don't know. And you're a man child
right.
or a woman child, uh, and you leave a pinnacle of success. You risk it all. And in that risk, you become a true man or
Hmm.
a true woman. It's a journey of risk. It's a journey of trust, and it's a journey of transformation. And the destiny is not success and wealth. The destiny is called enlightenment or
Hmm.
oneness. And the gift of it is an impossible beauty, seeing through the eyes of the good and the true and the beautiful, and seeing in the entire world with those eyes, not with judgment, not with shame or blame, not with any kind of evaluation or even analysis. You see something beyond that. You see essence, a hope, and a vision that is about future time.
Right.
It hasn't even manifested yet. You
Yeah.
don't know if it will even manifest in your lifetime. And here you are, you're 74. In a few months, you turn
71.
75.
71. I'll be 72 in a few months.
Well, 75 to 100 is the fourth act, is what I'm getting to. And you're very close to the end of the third act.
Right.
And you are about to embark in the near future on the fourth act.
Right.
And you were born in 1954.
Right.
So,
It's a long time ago now.
interestingly, you were born uh, 5 years before my son was born.
Oh, wow.
I've thought about that. You're a Virgo.
Hmm.
And it was fascinating in a conversation uh, with that I had with Coral this week, and she may come on and talk about this. She's a Virgo also. And she says, "Oh, I know about Virgos. They organize chaos. They organize chaos."
Mm, mm, that's
Well, maybe the
interesting.
time has arrived because we got a lot of chaos to organize right now. And so
Mm.
can I ask a question? I want to ask a
Of
question to the
course.
group and to the two of you. And we're reached a point where we're talking about organizing and an organizing principle. And this call is being hosted by the Called by Love Institute, of which Marj founded, and which has been her theme. And yeah, it's basically a little podcast that is the sacred love stories of our
Mm,
life and everything like that. So I want to ask the question to the two of you and maybe to the group at large about love,
mm,
what it is, and uh,
mm.
its power as an organizing principle.
I just
Try
wrote
that
a
one, Holly.
I just wrote a book. I just wrote a book about that, Ross.
Oh, imagine that. Marge did too, by the way.
Yeah, I know. We're both love bugs.
We're
Yeah.
both doing deep dives into love.
No.
Well, so I think that I'd love to hear what you think
Mm.
about that because it's been an organizing force in my life as well. But I'll just throw that.
Marge, you go first.
Well, what I see is that it depends on which vibration. And I think of 12 vibrations. That's even going beyond what David Hawken goes beyond or what Terry O'Fallon goes beyond. I
Mhm.
think about 12. Why do I think about 12? It's because it's biblical. There's 7 days of creation and many things that reference seven in the Bible. There's all the next big leap is to 12.
Mhm.
Mm.
And uh, and the 12 disciples, the 12 tribes of Israel. So I've already taken the big leap. I don't live there. I don't even have definitions for many of them.
Mm.
Holly's closer to definitions on some of the advanced stages than I am. And yet, what I realize is that the definitions aren't important to me because I live all of them. I live all of the definitions. I live my family love, which was down at the first vibration,
Mhm.
pure. It was pure essence. I was gifted as a child to be cherished and to be loved with a love that had no opposite. I was never spanked. I was never shamed. I was never told I was bad. That did not exist in my world as a child.
Mhm.
I was cherished and encouraged and always told, you can do anything. I found out that that's very rare. I didn't find that out until I was in my 40s and a minister and used to have people come and sit on my couch in my office and tell me the stories of their lives. Very rare. So I have all of those dimensions, vibrational fields of love in me. And what I want now in my life is to be able to dance all of the colors of the rainbow. What I find is, and I've only found this out in coming back to Kansas City, where I had created a lot of higher vibration dance partners at Unity in Tustin. That's gone now in my life, other than online. Coral Rose was one of them. and uh, and I've moved back to the heartland. The heartland is where unity was founded. The heartland is like at the level of affirmation, not at the level of manifestation yet. And and what I've found is that I had to relearn how to dance some of those lower levels, or else how to witness them instead of acting them out, because acting it out in the vibrational fields I was experiencing sometimes was not working and it was too painful for me.
Mhm.
So Holly uses the word coherence, and I want you to talk about the conference you're on, which there's a picture of in at the end of the email. Because
Holly's going on right in front of Ken Wilber.
uh-huh. This bring
No,
and
no
interestingly,
pressure.
it's part of what will bring it all together.
Mm.
And the founder of that conference was actually on one of our calls
Right.
early on.
Mhm.
And uh, anyway, I've said enough about where I am on it. Holly, do you want to dive?
Yeah, I'll respond to Ross's question. And I just pulled over my astrology chart, which I know, Marj, you're a huge astrology nut. I'm a beginner, but I was born with Scorpio Sun and Mercury and Neptune in my 11th house. So, anybody that knows astrology, like I chose this life. Um, and it was painful and very challenging. And just to answer your question, I now know that the organizing intelligence of the universe is love. Um, and somehow our souls know that it's later in life when you stop being a victim and you realize that all the struggles and challenges are actually designed to help you learn the things that you came to learn. Marj can talk extensively about that, but my soul just soldiered on and kept surviving all of the circumstances. I don't know how I'm still here, but I am. And in the later phases of life have come to realize that this was exactly what my soul wanted me to do, and to heal all those wounds of this lifetime that are really karmic threads from prior lives. And that as I've reclaimed those parts of myself, I've become more coherent, um, and more aligned and more whole and living as my full self, and therefore more able to love all of the parts of me that were lost in space time, wanted to be reclaimed and now become whole, and now literally am able to live as love. That is the organizing principle of who we are attempting to become. Um, I don't actually view enlightenment as a goal. Like I don't like maybe I don't know. Is that a possibility? But for me to live as the vibration of love in this lifetime and fully expressing, not that the challenges are done, not that there isn't still learning to do, but I do think it is what pulls us forward. We're always seeking a more whole, coherent version of ourselves, which is the cosmic impulse of love. That's how I see it anyway. Um, and I will be talking about that at the Integral Conference of North America next week in Denver, if anybody wants to join us. Um, and I did just publish this week a couple of books on that.
So
Yeah.
let's do a short pause point and simply uh, say that uh, this platform is survives because of your love donations and because of love donations. And I invite you in one of the emails to scroll down to where it says donate and participate in that love donation. I follow Myrtle Fillmore's commitment to love rather than money. And this is about love for me. It's my commitment to love, I support that with my tithes. And the other thing that I also want to mention is that before we go to our oh my God and sharing moments, which we'll have about 15 minutes for, next month on June 23rd, Anne Ortley is going to be our spotlight guest, and she is a world-renowned astrologer.
Mm.
She'll be the first astrologer of that ilk that we've had on this podcast. And I have studied with her since about 2019, when I didn't really believe in astrology. I thought it was just entertainment. And with the pandemic, I thought it would be something to entertain myself when I couldn't go outside. So I was a newbie. And I'm not an advanced person at all, but I'm really looking forward to Anne. I've done annual readings with her ever since, and looking forward to her. Uh, she was one of the people that said Kansas City is the perfect place for you when Ed said it's time for you to come to Kansas City.
Wow.
So it's very fascinating how our moves happen in our lives at certain points in time. And that kind of move is what got me to Kansas City. And I'm having another important astrological moment in January of next year, my third Saturn return. So, which is rare. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that unfolds. Anyway, if you want to sign up to get our emails, you can scroll down in an email to where it says uh, join our tribe. That's how you sign up. And it's a little more complicated on our homepage. You have to go down to uh, where the things are listed by where it says home. Anyway, let's go now into the oh my God moments. If you would like to share, please put up your hand, or you can simply raise your hand. If you'd like to share, by putting up your hand, simply go down and to the place on your computer where it says raise hand. And let's shift, Garth, into our next portion that is the oh my God and sharing moments. Otherwise, sometimes thought of as question and answer, but I want it to be more than that. I want it to be you sharing, oh my God, that happened to me, and then sharing your own experience. So uh, let's go to, I'm going to shift to gallery view and see all of your beautiful faces. Who would like to share? Anyone like to say hello and share? Johnny has raised his hand. So, Johnny, come online.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I'll just say I've got a dump truck load of rock arriving momentarily, so I may have to run. But just wanted to jump in and say, Ross, gosh, so great to hear even more of your story. And I was reflecting on knowing you and Mary, and I think we're right around 20 years, maybe 21 years. And Marj, you and I about now 25 or 26. And gosh, remembering way back, I think the first time we met and actually spoke was one of Jeff Salzman's events in Eben Fine Park, where we used to meet long before the bricks and mortar building was there. But really, just Ross, I appreciate you and I love you. You've been an inspiration and a motivation and a supporter in so many ways for me over the years. I remember countless times dropping by the Integral Center and hanging out in your office while you were writing, interrupting you, and just chatting about, whatever was going on. And yet, even today, I'm hearing even more that I didn't know. Some of the granularity about your experience in the wilderness, and I love the reference to the on second base, white boy on second base or something like that. It made me think, okay, what's my baseball metaphor? And actually, I literally my experience as a little leaguer was in outfield with a lousy glove, and the ball was hit right to me, and I didn't catch it, but it hit me right in the head.
Happened to
And
me
that
too,
pretty much
man.
that's kind of characterizes my wake up moments where um, you were mentioning how events happen in transitional and transformational kinds of things, and I think what I recognize also sometimes it's the freight train of life that
Mhm.
smacks us head on and obliviates everything that we thought we were, and before we can even begin to conceive of what a bridge is, let alone see it, um, to make a crossing. So I don't know. It's just so fun to reflect on these kind of things. But yeah, just love and blessings to you. And I'm so glad you pulled out the other side of whatever that was that had you in that bed last month. And I hope it's a launching pad for the next incredible whatever is coming. So
Thank
yeah.
you, Johnny. Man, I can remember meeting you when you were in coat and tie and wingtips.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Once upon a time.
That's good. Yeah, my baseball metaphor was not getting hit in the head, but whenever I was an outfielder too, which is where they put the, right field was where they put the kids that couldn't catch,
Yeah.
because not that many balls went out. And my problem was whenever a ball was hit to me, a fly ball, I would get so
Uh-huh.
excited I'd run up to meet it, and then it would go right over my head. I don't know. There's some sort of metaphor about that. If I would have just stood still,
Yeah.
it would have hit
Yeah.
me right in
Right.
the chest. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it's
I
great.
would love
Yeah.
for Mary to come online.
All
So,
right.
Garth, would you open up Mary's line? Or Mary, will you unmute your line? Because I have a question for you, Mary.
Hmm.
What's it like to be married to Ross Hostetter? You are the woman this man has loved.
Oh my goodness. It's an adventure. I will tell you that. It's an adventure every day. We're working on things multi-level. We're helping each other. We're fighting. We're throwing spaghetti on the wall to see what's going to work. We're always in the engine room trying to refine something. So it's just dynamic, and it's very enriching for me, I will say. I don't get bored, um, and I get pushed, and I push Ross. But we have a good tug of war. And we just allow each other now to have this expression, to do our best and to not just do our best, it's truly to let go of the shell of who we thought we were to something much bigger, much deeper, and much more eternal. And let that be the guide and let it unfold and like surprise us. But then there's always a lot of effort to kind of organize ourselves again for what do we have to do next to organize better so we don't have the awkward moments where we're not ready yet to this new level and we have to scurry and figure out, oh yeah, we got to still have some money coming in. So bridge to this, just build the bridges. So I'm grateful. I don't know if I would have had near as much growth with anyone else. So I'm grateful for you, Ross, and for you, Marge, for helping pull these stories out of us. They're so rich. We don't think about this way of talking often, and we don't reflect back on the life enough to see, wow, there's some beauty in this life. And I just so appreciate how this is coming forward with helping us put this into bigger context, and sharing it as a universal kind of experience, as the misfits maybe that are helping in the new way.
I think that's one of the things that makes this podcast unique. I have not seen anywhere online where they are doing this kind of what is your life about? How do the four acts work together? How does the imprints come in? How does the soul come in with these imprints? How does it reveal itself as it experiences life on the human plane? What did you come here to learn? What did you come here to experience? What did you come here to plant yourself? What are you giving, planting the seeds for future time?
Right.
And, I look at that picture of Ross and Ken Wilber and Roger Walsh, and I remember the time Roger Walsh and I had dinner at one time. We used to do that about once or twice a year over a period of 15 years when he was at UC Irvine and I was at Unity of Tustin. And I told him I was retiring from the platform. And he said, "You're what?" And I said, "I'm retiring." And he said, "Marge, monks don't retire." Monks don't retire. And I said, "I'm retiring from the platform at Unity of Tustin." And what I realize now is that in my 80s, in the fourth act, I could write another book. My last book stopped at age 75. And I have had a whole new life experience that has taken me to where I am now and will take me beyond. So, Coral, you talked about this concept of Scorpios organizing chaos. Do you want to come on and mention a little more about that?
Sure, sure. First, I would really love to just thank Ross for really taking us on your journey and quite incredible. The misfits, the outcasts, I deeply felt that. And what I loved was that letting go and just realizing the divine spark is within and guiding us to a place of service. So that was just really, really beautiful. So thank you. Um, so yeah, Virgo, Sun, Moon, Mars, Venus, all in Virgo. I'm a Virgo. Capricorn rising, just I'm all about the earth. And I don't often, so what Marge is referring to is something I shared with her. I don't often comment on Instagram to people that I don't know. You know, people that I may have met, or maybe a yoga teacher I'm familiar with. Um, Other than that, I don't. And something came across my feed recently. A gentleman standing in front of a Michael Jackson poster. He just left the theater. And he said, wow, did all you Virgos see this movie? Which I didn't. Um, Michael Jackson had a very messy room. Can some Virgos explain that to me or tell me about their living space? I said 4 words. I never comment. I don't even know where it came from. I just said Virgos practice organized chaos. And I woke up to all these Instagram notifications of 300 likes, 500 likes. It's like 2,500 people have liked this comment. And I said to Marge, wow, it was just amazing to me that that tapped into something and resonated with so many people that I don't know. And I've just it was interesting. I shared that with Marge that but yeah, it's just what came to me. Virgos practice organized chaos. So but
2,500 people.
Wow,
yeah,
that's
Like,
great.
yeah. September 55, Ross. So
Oh, wow.
you're
That's
behind you.
yeah. So Marge, we're getting near the end of our time, and I want to give you time to close this up. But one of the things that I do want to cover, because I know a lot of people on this call like that haven't had an opportunity to speak, like Eddie and Jennifer and Tess and just the folks that are here. Um, like Johnny, I know for a fact that you've reached the end of a stage and you're now stepping out into another unknown. And I just want to say that um, this outsider's path, or this path of of outgrowing, and I would say it's not really. It's when a house becomes too small, we got to break out the walls and see something else. And I think it's a natural process of becoming. Okay, that we're going to end these stages and move into another stage, which in kind of integral speak and all that is exactly what we're going to do. So we're building out a big balloon, seeing more and more and more. And at each of these places, there's things that we've metabolized, back down in the stack that allow us to love all kinds of people. Okay, all kinds of people that we may have once been and grown out of. And so that's an answer to my own question about what love is to be able to then see, as Marge says, and many times, all the colors of the rainbow, and to see, appreciate, and acknowledge the beauty and the goodness of all those things. And so I want to say that I see that in you, Johnny. And then also, because we are risk takers, and these risks are not imaginal, they're real. You put your body into them, you put your financial structure into them, you put your security structure into them. They're very real risks. And the importance of mattering to each other and supporting each other as we're going along in this. It's exceptionally important to me, and I want to extend that to everybody. Um, the possibility of being a soul friend to one another, I think, is just an incredibly important thing that we can do as an actionable form of love in the world. So I'll close my little spiel with that, Marge. So
and I also, in closing, want to uh, mention that this week, Jean Houston passed through the veils. And what an amazing soul she was, how important she was in many of our lives and in my life. And She was one of the participants on our first summit, Living Loving Legacy. Actually, one of the people that helped me put that together is going to be one of our guests uh, on this podcast in the coming months. So, you and Tanya, it's so amazing how souls somehow come for a time. We come to do whatever Spirit gives us to do, plant the seeds, be way showers, reveal the way of love or whatever. Um, uh, and I'm so delighted that Ross, you and Holly are going to both be at the Integral Conference of North America. I'll be online and say hello to our mutual friend there and say hello to Terry O'Fallon for me.
I will.
It's so beautiful to share this time with you. And so we're out of time. And let's just take a moment to simply say, oh, beloved one, we are so grateful for this time together, so grateful that we can share in these moments and recognize our lives as being part of a master plan, a thousand-piece puzzle. And we're only one tiny part of a puzzle that has potentially not just thousands of pieces, but millions of pieces, one for every person on this planet. And we simply say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you
And
for
for
inviting me.
all of you who have shared, all of you who are in attendance, and for all of you who will look at this video on YouTube in future time. We are so grateful. Our viewers on YouTube are usually several hundred, and live, it's less than that. Everything has changed with the platforms uh, that are possible now. And you are part of that. And so it is.
Mm.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Marj.
Marj.
Bye, everybody.